Welcome back, everybody. You're here at KGTR. My name is Tony. If you haven't already, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. You're in for a special treat today. We're going to go over Hip Radar Magazine, the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. This issue came out August of 1997. Again, we're going to cover the 100, according to Hip Radar, the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. I didn't say heavy metal, hair band, glam, they just said hard rock. So whenever they categorize these bands or CDs, they're categorizing them as hard rock. Alright, so let's dive into this magazine. We're going to flip through all the pages. We're going to goof on them, comment on the bands, the artists, the CDs, see which CDs you may have. Do you agree with the greatest, 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time? Let's check it out, alright? Let's join me now here at KGTR and let's check out the latest Hip Radar magazine of August 1997. Alright, let's dive into it. Alright, as you can see this beautiful cover, we have Hip Radar magazine. Alright, we got Ozzy Osbourne here, and we have, look, the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. Look, we got Kiss, we got Motley Crue, we got Metallica, what else? Alice in Chains. Look, we got Silverchair. Remember Silverchair? Remember, this issue came out in 97. So technically, obviously, it's 1997. 80s hair metal, 80s metal is over, right? It's long gone. This is 1997. So grunge was in full swing. Emo music, emotional music, emo, progressive, all that stuff was the new sound of the 90s. So the 80s are over. But Hip Radar, which is still a great magazine, in 1997 decided to share and create the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. And so I guess they're going to say plus Silverchair, Aerosmith, Bush, Ozzy, Live, Motley Crue, Foo Fighters, Queensryche, Collective Soul. Look at these bands. Remember these bands? It's all coming back to me now. Korn, Pantera, Offspring, Kiss. Alright, so let's open up this issue and see what's in here and see if we agree on this top 100 list. Right, as we open it up, we have an advertisement for Zildjian drums. Look, the music world's newest ideas come from the world's oldest music company, Zildjian. How many bass players, how many of you drummers out there play drums and you use Zildjian? You like Pearl, Zildjian, Tama? Let me know. Look, Rock Crown 7 Mary 3, alright? Featuring Make Up Your Mind. The new album, Make Up Your Mind, bitch. That's what it wants to say. Look, see, it says, Make Up Your Mind, bitch. So that's what it says. What else? Alright, Hip Radar content. So obviously they're going to cover Motley Crue, Silverchair, Queensryche, Korn, Machine Head, Bush. Remember these bands? Centerfold, Metallica. So if you're into centerfolds, a naked, can you picture a naked Metallica in this issue? All naked. You got Pantera, Foo Fighters, Rollins, Burning For You, the Ozfest, Aerosmith, Live, Turning Up the Heat, Kiss. Kiss is still jamming in 1997 with their reunion tour. Every year was a reunion tour, right? Comeback tour, reunion tour, final tour. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. Another advertisement for Zildjian drums. So not bad, huh? You go over here. There, right? When you open up the magazine, here's Zildjian drums. Flip it again. Here's Zildjian drums. So they want you to be buying and looking into Zildjian or Zildjian drums. All right, what's next? We read your email, or we read your mail. So this is 1997. The internet is in full swing. Still getting the kinks out, but the internet is up and running. So I wonder if you can send your email here. Soon you're going to start seeing on these advertisements .coms. Look for as we go through these magazines, we'll start looking at technology and see if they start adding .coms or their websites with www or www.com. Now you just put the name .com, but before everyone was putting www. So look for that. All right, Rockenfield Scott. And we have, again, we read your email or mail. The best stories are the ones that surprised you. True. Remember Best Buy? They're still Best Buy in 1997. Alright, like in Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, Pickaxe. Alright, here's Pearl. Remember, Pearl had their advertisement competing with Zildjian drums? So, who prefers Pearl versus Zildjian versus Tama? Or Tama? Right. Alright, front pages, the inside scoop. Look at, what's her face? Nirvana's, Kurt Cobain's wife. What's her name? Courtney Love. So some people said she was a hot mess. Some people feel sorry for her. So who knows? But here she is. Look at this Epiphone Flying V. How many people like Epiphone versus Gibson? Obviously, it's a lesser model of a Gibson. Just like Squire is a Fender. But I love the Flying V. But if it's a Gibson, it'd be better, right? So here's Epiphone. But there's nothing wrong with Epiphones, right? Roots. They always have a section for the magazine called Roots. So it just gets back into the roots. Again, look. Edge, Zildjian. That's 3 advertisements so far that we've encountered in this issue for Zildjian drums. Right? And look. Great artists make great music. Period. True. CMC makes it rock hard again. So Bruce Dickinson. Dawkins. Look. See Dawkins Shadow Life. 1997. So remember they had Dysfunctional back in 95? And then 2 years later, they had their last release ever as a band, again to the reunion, Dawkins Shadow Life. So here's Dawkins with George Lynch and Dawkins, Jeff Pilson and Mick Brown. And then we have Slaughter Revolution. So here's 3 metal artists from the 80s making metal in the mid-late 90s right here, 1997. Alright, sights and sounds. Look how they're spelled sights, like a sight. Not for eyesight, but sights and sounds. Rock news on the internet. See, the internet. This is 1997. Internet was 1995, I believe. And so here we go. So now you can start finding things online. You can start, people start creating fan pages, web pages, message boards. Remember the Easy Board message boards? So if you were a fan of Dawkins and you wanted to meet other fans of Dawkins, maybe you would create a message board for fans of Dawkins. And then people would find you and subscribe or become a member. And then all you do is talk about Dawkins. And I remember the message boards of for Racer X, for Dawkins, for George Lynch. There used to be a George Lynch message board. All that fell away because of the internet. And then you had online chat groups and so forth. And remember AOL? Oh, AOL. And what was the other one? There was AOL. And it's coming back to me, but I forgot. The 56K modem. Remember the modem? You wanted to log into the internet. You had to hear that. And you were slow if you didn't have a 56K modem. I think it was a 56K modem. And then, technology. But there it is. All right, Pearl. Remember? So that's 2 ads for Pearl, 3 ads for Zildjian drums. All right. Collective Soul. So these are the bands that were basically... see, I'm an 80s guy. 80s metal guy. I mean, I love all types of music, but I gravitate towards 80s metal. I also love, though, 80s new wave. But getting back to this, Collective Soul... These are bands that were prominent, big in the 90s. So Collective Soul, there we go. Christ were heavy, all right? Now this wasn't heavy metal. It was back to hard rock. Pick Hit, Dead Z, Seven Dust. Again, great album, Seven Dust. Zildjian, that's now 4 ads for Zildjian drums. Look, Get Back to Basics, New Styles, New Colors. So look, Zildjian has 4 ads already to Pearl's 2 ads in this magazine. Interesting. Maybe advertisement's cheap, or they knew this was going to be a very big issue, so they want their names out there. Because, musicians buy Hit Parader. They buy Cream, they buy Circus. Alright, Hard Rock Happenings in 1997. This is August of 97. Here's Kiss and the reunion tour. Silveria. Paste. Look, Paste drums. Remember Paste? And we got AC/DC, Moving Help. Oh, Movie Help. I'm sorry. AC/DC, Movie Help. Look at their little outfits here. So they look pretty weird back in 1997, considering they were a totally different band in the 80s. here they are, still chugging away in 1997. Look, the best of Rush. So if you're a fan of Rush, there you go. Motley Crue, Keeping the Faith. Look at this look. We remember Shout at the Devil, 1983. That looks that kill. When they first came on, playing loud and heavy and makeup and the fire and the hair and the costumes. This is their look now. See? They had to tone it down for the 90s. The 90s was a totally different look for bands. You would look foolish now dressed as an 80s metal band with big hair, costumes in 1997. So for 1997, this was the standard look. Dokken did the same thing. You cut the long hair and you shorten it because you want to be respected as a band. You want to evolve as a band. And you don't want to have this long hair. Some bands did that. But pretty much you cropped your hair, got with the times. All right, 80s hair metal's over. Let's play our music, but let's fit the look. Let's have the look. So here they are, just wearing a couple of chains, some baggy, loose-fitting clothes, and you're good to go. You don't have to have these elaborate costumes anymore, or the makeup and the hairspray. All right, Silverchair. Look, look like crap. See? Pair of everyday pants and a t-shirt. You're good to go. No costumes. Why? Because the music did all the talking for you. The music. Born Show Up. Silverchair was good. So I wouldn't mind picking up some Silverchair and or breaking it out and then playing it again. So I forgot all about Silverchair, but they were pretty big for their little window. Again, they didn't last long. A lot of these bands, like the metal era, bands came and went, and they couldn't sustain good hits. The next band, you moved on to the next band, or they just weren't selling records anymore. But Silverchair was good for about 2.5 years. Then they disappeared. Look, Queensryche frontman. Here's Jeff Tate, see? Gone is the long hair, the rooster haircut, that's all gone, remember? Now he has to grow the goatee to look a little bit more butch, more masculine. Not that he wasn't masculine, but those leather costumes are over, right? The leather days are over. So here's, he cropped his hair right here. He can still sing. Queensryche and Jeff Tate, he can still sing. Korn, taking the rap. So here's Korn. Look at the hair right there. Again, Korn have their own style, own sound. So if you're like this type of music, Korn, it was different. It's a different type of metal. Because I always gravitate towards 80s metal, hair metal, glam. The 90s had a different type of sub-metal. Grunge is a form of metal, but it wasn't heavy metal. They just called it grunge. Then they had emo, a lot of power chords, minor chords, the heavy distortion, and then but no guitar solos. Pretty much in the 90s, those bands had no guitar solos. They would just have long bridges or breaks with heavy drums and maybe some dancing, whatever, with the band. But the guitar solos, there was no guitar solos in the 90s. Machine Head, a heavy dose. So look at these heavy bands. These are heavy bands. Not heavy metal bands, but they were metal bands. See, there's a difference. There's metal in the 90s, but there was heavy metal in the 80s. So, all right, Fear Factory. Romanu Actor Cloning Technology. Look at this. 1997. This is August. All right, Bush, Living It Up. What happened to Bush? Look at this. Remember him? Gavin, what's his name? Gavin, I forgot his name. I can't read that name. But if you know him, tell me down below. But look, remember Bush? I forgot all about Bush. Great band. Rockabilia, again, more Rockabilia, but this will be mostly towards the 90s now. Alright, well, again, more Rockabilia, retro novelty t-shirts. So now, you were nostalgic for the 80s. So you would come here, if you found anything from the 80s in 1997, you went and bought it. Because you gravitate toward that. Alright, so here we go. The 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time, a special report. And they're basically telling you who they like. Let's see. Korn, The Offspring, Smash, Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire, Ted Nugent, Cat Scratch Fever. I'm not going to go through all of them, but pretty much Oh yeah, they're going backwards. So here's so they're going backwards. Look, Ted Nugent. So these are the hard rock CDs of all time. So they're gonna lump a lot of metal bands probably, and 70s bands with 90s bands all into this list. But if you ever wanted to build a collection of the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time, maybe you're one of the few that has all these CDs already. But if you wanted to have a nice project of the greatest hard rock CDs and you wanted to own all these, you can still do that. You can go to eBay, Amazon, get these CDs, or buy your CDs, CD Music Now, wherever you buy CDs at, and try to compile this list. Because according to Hit Parader, these are CDs you should own, listen to. Collective Soul. I'll just go over the bands. So we got Korn, Rage Against the Machine, The Offspring, Tesla, Lenny Kravitz, to give you a taste of these names. Collective Soul again, Type O Negative, Silverchair. Remember we talked about Silverchair? Ted Nugent's in there, look at that. UFO, Lights Out, Grand Funk Railroad, the Foo Fighters, Green Day, Blue Cheer, I think that is. The Colt Electric. Oh, the Colt. There we go. White Zombie. Thin Lizzy. We got Lita Ford, Faith No More, Dio. We love, see, Dio is 80s heavy metal, but it's saying hard rock, so we're going to incorporate it. We got Dio. We got Live, King's X, Tool, Free, Mountain, Queen. I put Queen in there, Saxon, Accept. Look at that. You got Rat, their debut album, Helmet. Montrose. We got Pantera, Alice Cooper, Quiet Riot, Metal Health. Yeah, so you gotta have that. This would be a great collection to have. Doc in Tooth. Look at that. They put Doc in Tooth and Nail. They put that one at 66, 68. Stone Temple Pilots, Pantera. What else? We have Scorpions, Megadeth, Jimi Hendrix, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nine Inch Nails. Look at these bands. Cream, Iron Maiden, Bon Jovi, Corrosion of Conformity, great band. Bush, Deep Purple, Sepultura, Alice in Chains, Rush, Metallica, Soundgarden, Motorhead, Anthrax, Megadeth. Look at these bands. I forgot all about these bands. They did their homework. What else here? Nirvana, Van Halen. They put Van Halen OU182 or OU812. Aerosmith, Queensryche Empire. Look, another Pantera. Marilyn Manson, Slayer, Pearl Jam, Kiss, Destroyer. Judas Priest, Kiss, Love Gun, Ozzy. No More Tears. They haven't done Blizzard of Oz yet, or Diary. We're already at number 31. We got Judas Priest, British Steel, Kiss, Love Gun. That was a great album. We got AC/DC, Highway to Hell, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Stone Temple Pilots. That's 2 Metallicas already. Guns N' Roses. Another Aerosmith, Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, Bon Jovi, Black Sabbath, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, another Nirvana, Def Leppard, there we go, Metallica, 3 Metallicas, Led Zeppelin 2, Queensryche, that's 2 for Queensryche, Deep Purple, 2 for Deep Purple, Soundgarden, 2 for them, Led Zeppelin, 2 for them, Motley Crue, 2 for them, Judas Priest, 2 for them, number 9, AC/DC, that's like number 2 for them. I'm surprised they put No More Tears for Ozzy when Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz were awesome. Alright, so we have here Guns N' Roses, that's 2 for them. Another Aerosmith, 3. Black Sabbath, that's 2 or 3. Here we go. Alright, look. Marilyn Manson, here's Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. How can you not... look at this beautiful, look at this, look. This is 1981, right here. Ozzy with Randy, with his classic Les Paul right there. Oh, God, if he were still alive. And to think, I'm sure there's still, I know there is. I just know my gut says there's still pro shot footage of a couple of concerts, or at least one of the concerts with Ozzy and Randy of Pro Shot. I know it exists. For whatever reason, they're not releasing it. Why? I don't know why you would sit on it, but they need to release live Randy Rhoads on video. All right, so that's a number 4. And number 3, Kiss Alive. Yeah, that was good. Number 2, Metallica, and number 1, Led Zeppelin 4. Now, what I would have replaced, I would have put number 1, or at least in the top 5, I definitely would have put Van Halen 1. They put Van Halen OU812, whatever that name is. I'm sure it's a good album. I mean, it's a good album. But I would think Van Halen 1, by far, should have been in this mix before OU812, whatever. But so those were the greatest 100 hard rock CDs of all time, according to Hit Parader. And it got me thinking, because I think after this video, I'm going to go look up on YouTube many of these bands and have a re-listen to these bands, because I remember these bands in the 90s, but I forgot all about them in the 2000s, in the 2010s, and in the 2020s. I just forgot about them. Silverchair. I haven't heard Silverchair or Bush since the 90s. I forgot all about them. And I need to, Pearl Jam. I haven't heard Pearl Jam since the 90s. And they were good back then. It wasn't my heavy metal like I remember, but it was good. But again, they came and went. By the year 2000, 90s grunge was dead. So every genre has their place. Disco, remember, that lasted 5 years? Dead. Punk, lasted 4 or 5 years? Dead. Metal, 8-9 years? Dead. 80s metal, rather. So every genre has their lifespan. But if you can, one of those bands that could play into other genres, then you have a chance to do that. So that was pretty good. I like that list. I'm going to go visit a lot of these bands on YouTube and check out their hits and see if I can revisit this. This is a good collection. I wouldn't mind having this collection and then playing it in my car. I love taking road trips. And this would be great if you had all these CDs and then just basically hit random and all these songs would come up. That would be awesome. So, what do you think about this list? Did they leave any of your favorite artists out? Any of your favorite bands out? Again, my only, not complaint, I just think they should have put Van Halen 1 in there. They didn't put Van Halen 1 in there. Alright, here's a nice poster for Led Zeppelin. Look, nice layout. Vintage Led Zeppelin. Alright, Marilyn Manson. Again, came and went. A couple of good tracks. Came and went. Look, Dimebag, Hit Parader. Another monster guitar player. He's holding the whammy bar over here. Sadly, he passed away. Foo Fighters. I haven't heard Foo Fighters since the 90s. I just haven't. And so they had some good stuff. Dave Grohl, Hit Parader. I'd like to see this band get a degree of the respect that Nirvana got. See? Foo Fighters. Nirvana was like the face of the 90s, and then other bands were under the shadow of Nirvana. Just like it's fair to say when Van Halen came out in 1978, all the metal bands, sorry for that background, but under the Van Halen umbrella, you had all these other 80s metal bands. Dawkins, Dio, Rat, Scorpions, Judas. It was all under the umbrella of Van Halen. It just was. And so a lot of these bands in the 90s were under the umbrella of Nirvana. Alright, we have Rollins, Burning for You. That's very heavy and thrashy. So if you're a fan of Rollins, there you go. Ozfest, 1997. Look, there he is, looking kind of slimmed down. He's not this bloated fat mess like he was back in 82, 83. So Sabbath and Manson revived the metal cause. So see, by the mid-late 90s, a few of the 80s metal bands wanted to make a comeback in the late 90s, early 2000s to say, hey, we're back. I know you still miss us. We have a new look, but we're still the same band. And check us out now in 2000. And that's what a lot of bands. So a lot of the 80s metal bands in the 80s, they broke up for whatever reason. They're just like, you know what? let's get back together. We'll have a different look, but we'll still be true to our music and our fans, and we'll play some little clubs and see where it takes us. All right, so here we got Pantera over here. We got Sabbath's Geezer Butler, Black Sabbath. Here's a little reunion with Tony Iommi and Ozzy. Look, Perry and Tyler, Hit Parader. These guys have been around forever, right? They still chugged away. They were big in the 70s with Dream On. Hot Rocks, that's what it was, Hot Rocks. They were big with Hot Rocks and Dream On. And then in 1987, Dude Looks Like a Lady. They blew up again in the 80s. And so, great band. Live. Turning up the heat. Alright, so check them out. Nice article here on Live. Still the greatest. Look, Kiss in 1997. They had the reunion tour. Right? I saw them in 95 or 96. I think it was 95. It could have been 96. I forget. But they were at San Diego Sports Arena. And me and two friends went. It was the first time and the last time I saw Kiss. I didn't have a camera back then. I didn't even have a smartphone back then, I don't think. No. I think I had a BlackBerry. I forget. But I didn't have a camera to take photographs. I would have loved to have taken photographs or a video of that show. But yeah, it was fun. I saw the reunion Kiss, but it was still Kiss, and it was awesome. I love it. Oh, I love it. All right, Shooting Stars, so up-and-coming bands, Grip Inc., Danny Carey. Again, more advertisements here. Boom. Celebrity rated videos. So we have Handsome rating these songs and videos. Look, I love this poster. The Kiss Years. So the Kiss Years. So this is a book we all been waiting for. So they had 20,000 copies, 144 full color pages. So this is a treat. I'm sure it must be out there. You can probably find this on eBay, called The Kiss Years. It's a book. And I'm sure someone would be willing to part with it. And this is 25 bucks. Someone will probably sell it for like 50 bucks. But this poster, I love this poster back in the 70s. Oh, you just stare at it. You're too young to go to concerts. And they weren't on TV unless you saw Paul Lynde Halloween special. But you would stare at that poster when you played their albums. All right, indie reviews, Baboon. All right, here's Baboon. Hit or miss, you either like this band or you don't. We sweat the details. Again, Drum Workshop Inc. So that's for drums. Song Index, the story behind a tribute to Judas Priest, Legends of Metal. So here we go. Tribute to Judas Priest. Call 1-800-403-5791 to subscribe to Hit Parader magazine and save 42%. All right, Forever Friendship, these little advertisements here. We're almost done with this. Play killer guitar. So if you send your money here, you'll get some magazines and some tabs to play killer guitar. Again, some back issues over here, some advertisements over there. Rare compact disc metal, rare metal videos. This is what I used to always look for. If my favorite band was here, Dawkins or Rat, and there happened to be like a bootleg video, you would order it and hopefully get a VHS copy. Right, Rockabilia, here's a memorabilia right there. Iron Man Records, rare records, you order there. Again, more goth and metal stuff. Look at this guitar, Carvin. Look at that guitar. When it's real, you know it. So look at this guitar. Not a bad looking guitar. Right here, it's like an offset Telecaster. So pretty cool. It's Carvin. Jimmy Page, nice little article on Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. Right, instrumentally speaking, Sabian. That's what Sabian. Here's a little Sabian. So Sabian, Tama, Zildjian, and Pearl. Yeah. Queensryche. Look at their album right here. Video view. So up and coming videos here. Sabian Rock. So here's some more advertisements for the drums. Sabian. And lastly, Pantera official live album and video coming this summer. So in the summer of 1997, Pantera was going to release a video and album of their latest tracks. All right, So that was the Hit Parader magazine released in August of 1997, the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. Or, is that what it was? Yeah, of all time, or of all time. So the 100 greatest hard rock CDs of all time. And that was this issue. And I went pretty much through all the bands. I didn't go through the actual album, but I just rattled off the bands that they represented for the greatest 100 hard rock CDs. And they had Ted Nugent in there, Jimi Hendrix, they had Ozzy Osbourne, they had Silverchair, Pantera, Nirvana, Van Halen. They had Dokken in there. Yes, they had Dokken into the Tooth and Nail album. So it was very eclectic. All sorts of hard rock, metal, grunge in there, and emo in there. So that was a pretty good list. Again, I would like to revisit that later for myself and go over to YouTube and look up these bands, because a lot of these bands were coming to me and I just forgot about them. But I want to reminisce and re-listen to some of these bands and hits. All right, so that was the latest issue that was released August of 97. Let me know, do you agree with their 100 greatest hard rock CDs? Who did they leave out? Who should have they left out, or left in, or kept in? Let me know below your comments. And what were you doing back in August of 97? Did your musical taste change? Were you still reminiscing of the 80s metal genre? Were you gravitating, liking the music of the 90s? I didn't care for the music of the 90s. I didn't buy much of anything. I really didn't. I would probably buy a Dokken album. I was into videos, guitar videos, but I still gravitated to my 80s music. I didn't buy any, like Nirvana. I didn't buy any of those bands or CDs. I didn't buy that stuff. I just wasn't into it. But it was on the radio. I heard it. There was some catchy stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, I gotta go buy that album. So pretty much in the 90s, I didn't buy any of the 90s bands music. I just didn't. But I did buy a lot of 80s metal bands catching up that I could find. You know, I'd stock up on Skid Row. I'd buy more Def Leppard albums I didn't have. I'd buy Rush albums, you know, Ozzy Osbourne albums. And I would buy more of my 80s stuff in the 90s, but I didn't buy or follow too many 90s bands. But everyone's different. So let me know in your comments below who you were listening to back in the 90s or late 90s. All right. I'm Tony. Thanks for watching. You're here at KGTR. Again, click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next video.